Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Rob, mine are he and him.
And I'm Alistair, my pronouns are also he and him.
Once again.
And we have a guest. Oh no, I'm the guest.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, do my job, please.
There was a pause and I thought, oh crap, am I supposed to come in and say, I'll say my own name, which is, I'm Gareth Dennis, my pronouns are he and him, and I've already wrecked the show. We're off to a great start, folks.
You can't wreck
Thanks,
something
Gareth,
that's
for coming on.
fucked.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Always good to have you on. So yeah, we'll get to the specialist subject in a bit. I'm pretty sure everyone can fucking guess at this point. Bikes, obviously. Yeah. So we'll go on to bikes later. But in the meantime, Rob, what misery have you found? Bear in mind, Rob, I haven't done these notes, so I'm at the back of the class this week, and fuck you.
Well,
Yeah, David's vaping. He's got a coin that he's flipping for some reason.
oh no, he's going Two-Face mode. Oh no.
Have you not heard about this this thing that the kids are doing?
No, of course not.
Coin boys. Like,
What?
flip it. Right, so apparently there's I don't know if this is just in America, but I've heard about the coin boys, right? So they'll flip a coin whenever they have to do anything, and they abide solely by the coin to decide for them.
Are coin boys the Wario of Mr. Rules?
Were they all
feel like the
prosecutors
coin-
in their youth?
I feel like the coin is a more consistent morality than Mr. Rules.
Didn't someone write a book about doing something like this in the 90s?
You'd have to tell me, Jamie.
Are you thinking of the Dice Man?
Yes, that might be it,
Yeah.
actually.
I've got a copy of that. My dad gave me that book fucking years ago. And I've still
Coin
never read
boys,
it.
son of Dice Man.
Was it like a book, or would you call it more of a manifesto if you think about it?
Or you might.
Well, that was a joke that landed fucking dead.
I enjoyed it. In fact, but before we get into the news, dear listeners, I need to give the dear listeners a peek behind the curtain. Dear listeners, you may think that this podcast is hosted by a gang of angry maniacs, and you would be absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. But also, they're very kind. I was supposed to be on weeks ago. And I was booked in fact, and had to decline. And they very kindly let me decline because I was and come on later because I was in a book writing stress zone. So thanks everyone. And there you are. The curtain has been closed again, listeners. You no longer know what's going on.
Yeah.
But you did
box.
get a sneak peek of the plug at the end of the episode.
Wait, are we selling curtains now?
Yeah. I mean,
Sell it.
Give it time.
We're doing ads already, so fuck it, why not?
Can we get those on T-bill, Jamie? Can we get branded curtains that you could go to bed?
Buy a big enough shirt and then order some scissors off Amazon. I'm not fucking...
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, exactly.
Now, I wanted to start this evening with the continuing saga of BritishVolt, because, what is dead may never die, basically.
The British inability to build a battery.
Yeah, well, I mean, fortunately for you, there's no longer batteries much involved in this, because as we, predicted, the previous company, the one Australian man who was in charge of a company called Recharge, they're not officially broke yet, but their website has disappeared, and they are in default of many of their debts. So,
Is that good?
To that one. I think so. Yeah.
It's the financial equivalent of deleting your Twitter account because you got owned too hard.
Yeah. Going into private mode. Yeah, that's it.
But I have good news for Britain and the good people of Blythe. There's a new contender has arrived for the exact same site. And this time, it's not one Australian man. It's the world's biggest private equity firm. It's Blackstone, everybody.
Blackstone, woo! Oh, Jesus Christ.
Bring back the Australian man.
Mr.
What a
Mr.
sorry
Blackstone.
gaggle of shites. Literal Blackstone. Is there anything they haven't destroyed?
Mr.
Yes, as
Blackstone,
it turns out.
why are you on that pale horse?
So this is from Tom Howard at the Times. Quote, Blackstone has laid out plans to buy the Blythe site from BritishVolt's receivers and invest as much as £10 billion to develop a hyperscale data center campus.
I don't like or believe any of those words.
Yeah.
No, some of them aren't even real.
You thought you were
there
going to
is-
get manufacturing, but by God, that was never going to happen.
Well, no, that's because we're...
anything that gets described as a campus is shit. Really.
Yeah.
Yep. Or the word hyper in it, but that's another episode, I'm sure.
You see, if it was a Hyperloop campus, that would be something, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it? It would
Firing
exist
fucking
purely
like
in the
students
mind.
around a fucking tube.
Yeah, that's it.
Being no platformed at high speed.
Yeah.
Just an enormous university scandal from students firing their guinea pigs around, literal guinea pigs around like a 10-meter diameter tube at 60 miles an hour.
Now I'm just imagining those pneumatic tubes from like Futurama, but just everywhere across the campus. And to be fair, that would be kind of cool if you could go like zoop to class.
Yep.
It depends. Well, what noise does a guinea pig make going at 35 miles an hour through an evacuated air tube? Something like that. Yeah.
Only one way to find out. Harry Hill carrying a guinea pig in a fucking tube onto stage.
There is just before Blythe Council signs, though, there's just one small new proviso in the contract, just one minor adjustment they'd like to make.
Is it then they're not allowed to keep any of the money or something like that?
It's sort of, in a way, yes. Again, from the Times, for any deal to go through, it wants Northumberland County Council to amend the buyback option it has over the site, which, as it stands, allows the council to buy back the land for the amount it's sold it for if certain conditions aren't met. So basically, they just have to sell the land in perpetuity.
Yeah, okay. So they want to sell the land and say, like, right, you're not allowed to just dig a huge pit and fill it with radioactive waste and the skulls of your enemies, or we buy it back for the cost, like, that we for what you paid us. And, like, it's like, no, we don't agree to that.
So that basically the only protection that Northumberland County Council had over itself, the only protection it has, and Blackstone are probably successfully going to negotiate them out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I love how robust our state is versus the incredibly powerful, just some guys in a trench coat type companies that come and steal all our money. It's fab. That's so good to have such a robust state, well recruited, with lots of well recruited and well paid and happy in their job council officers who are capable of dealing with this rather than just going, fuck it, I cannot be asked fighting this again, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, what if the door-to-door salesman was like the guy from the box art of Syndicate?
I was going to say, it's like a trench coat with a couple of kids in it, except each of the kids has an AK-47.
Yeah, also probably the former president of like a major European country,
and also a desire for human flesh.
Yeah.
Imagine being a Labour councillor, right? And you get approached.
No,
by
I simply will not
Blackstone.
imagine this.
No.
Yeah,
Just
I
play it out
simply
here,
will not.
right? Blackstone approach you wanting this land, and Blackstone, having infinite fucking money, can buy you off with a pack of jammy Dodgers and a pat in the back because you're a Labour fucking councillor.
Yeah.
Well, this time they're getting a little bit more than a pack of jammy Dodgers. That's the quote-unquote upside.
Some chocolate digestives into the bargain, yeah?
One whole custard cream each.
Yeah, exactly. This is the problem that runs to the heart of British democracy, is that we are so cheap and so stupid that all of our politicians can literally be bought off for peanuts, for the cash that I've yet to, for my little child's cash that I've yet to bank from their birthday is enough to buy off any level of seniority politician in this country. I think it's probably about 25 quid. That's all it takes,
cheap.
Literally.
It's such a beautiful British tradition that anyone can buy a British politician's interest so long as that politician happens to already agree with the prick buying it.
Yeah, but can we have the information on what kind of biscuit they were given? Though I'm dying to hear this.
Well, actually, it is a little bit more than a biscuit. I will say. Quote again the Times: in exchange for amending the option, i.e., getting rid of the buyback, which would effectively give Blackstone secure long-term ownership of the site, the council would receive up to £110 million. Councillors are meeting next. Yeah, up to.
There are several words I do not like. Blackstone, give Blackstone secure long-term ownership of the site. There is a clause in a sentence I do not ever want to read. And also up to 110 million. Yeah, up to, I would imagine, putting in a lot of work there. Yeah.
Look, they just think the site is a very, very positive place. You know, there's a confluence of the ley lines, and they just want to draw a very big pentagram you can only see from space. And yes, they're called Blackstone, but I simply would tell you that, you know, maybe there's going to be 1,200 construction jobs in that. And quite frankly, why do you hate economy?
Constructing what, Rob?
Yeah.
Little chefs, obviously. If you got a confluence of ley lines,
yes.
that's the only thing you can build there.
Yeah, little chefs. Yep.
What if they don't?
Actually, the only thing I would want to see in Blythe, Blythe deserves a decent little chef. If there's anything going to appear, then Blythe can have a little chef. Why not?
As a treat.
Bring it back.
It's certainly still a long way from getting a finished railway anyway, but that's another story.
Bring back the expensive breakfast. That's what we want. The people of Blythe.
I mean, basically, so without this buyback option, which is always like the one guarantee that Northumberland County Council had, that like, you know, something was eventually going to get built on this site. So it's kind of like a gamble, basically. Like you get 110 million now, but then, you know, the land's gone forever, and then like maybe nothing happens there. Maybe Blackstone just sits on it for 20 years because they have so much money, they can just run it empty for 20 years and, you know, wait for something to develop that might be good. And maybe they will actually build like the hyperscale data center campus, but maybe not.
But this whole thing. I might be jumping the gun here, but it's walloping me that this whole thing is being, you know, whenever you see these massive new data centers being proposed, they're being proposed off the back of a tech flim-flam that is already peaked and is likely to start being, you know, reducing in demand because everyone realizes it's a shit idea. You know, we had blockchain. Then it was large language models and AI that are the big next thing that require a huge, just baffling amounts of energy consuming data processing. These data centers, like they're focusing on an AI future that's not going to arrive. The use cases of like big AI have already run thin. Like it's a bubble that's already kind of burst. It's quite remarkable to see that anyway, I just get so angry with this stuff.
Listen, you're against this now. That's really, really foolish and short-sighted, though. You won't be fucking thinking any of this was a bad idea when Google Stadia makes its triumphant return and we can all get cloud gaming on the go.
It is bewildering that, like, you know, business CEOs and people who presumably should do a job are going whole hog for AI, and so far, at least in my experience, the most that they've managed to do is spend a long time putting inputs into ChatGPT or whatever to generate a fake scam email to test you on your ability to detect a phishing email.
They were getting like the big AI tech losers who are in charge, who like are the big players on this, were on stage at a incredibly tech favorable festival getting booed because like a lot of people have realized that it's just all an enormously well hidden form of deep plagiarism. Like the popularity of this stuff has peaked. Like all the large language model and associated graphical, you know, all the videos, and also the videos. I think that was the peak, was how crap the videos are and how the pictures are all still rubbish, and all the people saying AI art are all pushing for AI art and seeing that it is just plagiarism. Like it's burnt. The peak AI was last year, not this year. We're through this stuff.
You will be eating those negative words when Cyberpunk 2078 comes out featuring Johnny Spiderhands.
Yeah, like imagine like how much more difficult it's going to be to detect the cup and ball game if the guy playing it has like 12 fingers and there can hold like many more cups. You know, like
yeah. Oh, man.
The Flim Flam generator is, quite frankly, though, like the most British success story of the future. Like, that is pretty much what the UK is all about.
It's true. We are just a Jenga tower of flim flams piled upon each other haphazardly.
Well, I wanted to briefly.
It's just fucking. I mean, it is literally like snake oil. Do you know what I mean? Except, like, fucking instead of having gout or whatever the fuck people had in the 18th century, I'm not a historian, don't at me. Like, you know what I mean? All these people have dying from climate change, and someone's come along with, what if we made an AI and it got clever enough to tell us how to fix the climate change? So obviously they're all in on that, because what else are they going to do? Stop flying private jets everywhere? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
But I mean, the good news is, though, like, some of the previous flim flams are now officially collapsing, which is the next bit I wanted to talk about. So one of the major, what are they called again? They're known as, like, quick commerce companies. They're like Getter and Gorilla and stuff.
Dropshipping?
No. You remember, like, during Corona, they were super popular. They were like, you know, the 0 hour contract guys that would, like, come to your house on a scooter and have, like, I don't know, toothpaste, a bag of crisps, and like 6 cans of Stella that you would like order.
So Deliveroo.
Yeah. But like, Deliveroo got into that game like the grocery delivery much later. So like, there were a whole bunch of companies that are all collapsing now that are doing
they
this.
They have a specific name, do they?
Yeah, they're called quick commerce companies.
Oh, okay.
You know when something's called a quick commerce company that it's good and sustainable and part of a long-term economic prospect for any given location. Honestly,
when Rob first said quick commerce company, I assumed that was some new fucking like class of tax break you could get if you were only planning to run a shell company for like 20 minutes or something like that. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, this is kind of, I'm kind of relaxed having heard that it's not what because I thought this is going to be like, you know, if your company only exists for an hour, you're legally entitled to just steal people's houses. Like, you know, like
that is probably
the bricks and mortar are allowed to be like just picked up by a big Hoover from space.
Yeah. Jamie's just relieved that for once the idea that he had in his head was stupider than what actually happened.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I beat Rob for once.
Well, I mean, all these stores are, Jamie, like to follow up on your point, they are all heavily reliant on what are known as dark stores.
What?
Jesus Christ.
So basically, like, if
this is some kind of Star Wars sequel. Jedi Knight 3 Dark Stores.
Well, ancient Sith technology powers the Tesco shopping scan gun.
Fucking hell.
That little laser is red, to be fair.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
No, dark stores are like dark kitchens. They're like places where the consumer doesn't go, but where basically the stuff comes from.
Oh god, it's just like 3 container shipping containers that still have Maersk on the outside. And
exactly.
They painted them white inside. They don't have any lights on. They've blinded the people who work in them, so they can't see and don't know where the escape door is.
So they made a rap music video from the 90s.
Exactly, yeah.
No, basically, it's like just.
Hang on, I just want to ask while we're talking about Star Wars. How early in the training for Jedi do you reckon you have to tell the kids not to look directly into the lightsaber?
Lesson 3.
Yeah, early. What do you reckon the numbers on kids that get horrifyingly mutilated when wanging their lightsaber around is? Do you reckon it's like 1 in 5, 1 in 4?
Official or real?
Slaughter rate.
I was going to say it depends whether or not Hayden Christian's in the building.
It's true. Yeah, those numbers went sky high at a certain point in the history of that temple. Yeah, that's true.
The Jedi.
I reckon they'll have.
You and McGregor watching on a monitor, going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, not again."
The Jedi equivalent of like never staring down the barrel of a gun is like never staring down the opening of the lightsaber before you press the big button.
Master Cobain, no.
I was about to invoke Bud Dwyer, but yeah.
Before turning the lightsaber on himself. No, dark stores are basically they're just like a warehouse facility. It's like if you order, I don't know, 2 packs of Marlboros and some crisps at 11 p.m., they're obviously not getting it from a real store, from like, I don't know, the big Tesco or something. They have like a little warehouse nearby, but like you can't buy anything in there. So it's just like, and those are called dark stores because like you can go in there.
Yeah, it sounds like a typical shopping experience, to be honest.
So yeah, but basically, Getter, which is one of the last like super long-standing ones, is going to collapse pretty soon.
I just want to float this before we carry on. Stupid name.
If you want some stupid names, do you want some more stupid names? Because I have a few stupid names for you.
Yeah, let's go back to Star Wars.
Yeah, Howard.
All right.
Yeah, Star Wars character or startup. That's what we're going to
That is literally I sense that is precisely the list we're about to experience. Yeah, okay.
So
I sense
like
that using the Force.
I'm calling dibs on Darth Warehouse.
So yeah, Getter's not the only one. This is from a short list from the FT. New York-based Bike, Fridge No More, and Zero Grocery have already shut down. In Europe, Wheezy, Fancy,
one of
Deja,
Mike Patton's less successful spin-off projects.
Sneezy.
In Europe we have Wheezy, Fancy, Deja, Block, but written with a K at the end, and no C.
Block is written with a K at the end.
Yeah, but no C. And Kajoo, Cajoo.
Wheezy, Fancy, Deja, Block, Dopey, Sleepy. Yeah, that's it.
Block and Kajoo are 100% on the wiki somewhere.
I assume all of these companies are going to pivot to like what, Dick and Ball logistics now.
What?
I'm just imagining like Disney's Seven Dwarfs, like, you know, the mines have all shut down and they live in this hideous depressed town and they all drive little scooters around now.
Yeah, with the insulated square bags on their back, just whizzing around with like like a can of like Tesco's own brand lager with a packet of salt and vinegar crisps in the back. Yeah, excellent. That's the good stuff.
Tesco should do their own brand tabs, to be honest. Like that's just wildly expensive.
Yeah, they could use the old Tesco value branding from the late 90s. That would work quite nicely on it. Anyway, yeah.
Two more from the FT for you. Even well-funded Flink, Flink.
Flink. Yeah, these are literally on Wikipedia.
Well-funded
Professor Flink. He'll make you short. He'll make you think.
Well-funded Flink sounds like an enemy you would meet in an MMO in the mid-90s.
And my favourite one last, and Joker, Jokr, so without the E.
Didn't we make that up as a bit at one point?
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was about, but did we not make a logo for some? No,
guess who incorporated it, baby?
It was Jester. It was like JSTR, I think.
God.
Well-funded Flink is the guy who bankrolls Cut Me Own Throat Dibbler.
God.
The incredible thing, though, this is from Sky. At one
There's
point,
an
Getter was valued more highly by private investors than Marks and Spencers and Sainsbury combined. At its
Yeah, it
it's
definitely
the future.
sounds like these lads know what they're fucking doing, doesn't it?
Absolutely incredible. I love it. I love how this stuff works. I mean, this is just Tesla again, right? Just like, it's a company that successfully does nothing, and it is valued at, it's like more valuable than every single other car manufacturer put together. Absolutely, our economic system that we live under makes perfect sense.
Yep.
It works. It's fantastic.
Look, it's the most efficient system for allocating resources, and why do you hate success?
Oh my god! Oh dear me, shocking. Incredible. Yeah. So all of those names, those all need to go into a random text generator, and we can start generating new Star Wars sequel series. Let us know tomorrow.
Yeah,
Kevin. That's it. I'd say Kevin Feige. I mean, he probably does own Star Wars, but that's not who I mean. The other guy, Kevin, the one of the guys who have a strange name, who's in charge of all media properties these days.
Tell us the name of the guy in charge of Star Wars now, David.
Lords Dukas.
I think actually you'll find it's Wheezy Dija who is now in charge of Star Wars.
Yeah, they'll sell these brands to anyone these days.
Yeah, I mean, actually, before we get on the main thing, I wanted to drop a see how one more bankruptcy is doing in the UK, and that's one of the several holding companies that are involved in the ownerships of Thames Water, which has finally defaulted on its debts payments, possibly or probably, or depends on how you look at it today, triggering the eventual temporary nationalisation of Thames Water.
So we've moved from slowly to suddenly. Excellent.
Yes, exactly. We're now at the point of suddenly.
Is it going to be one of the situations where it's the Tories who do nationalisation again? Because, by God, if Labour will ever do a nationalisation, no.
It's temporary.
It's always the Tories somehow.
It's temporary, so it'll be the Tories that bring it in, and then it'll be Labour that sell it off.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Balance is restored to the force once again.
I can't wait to see what Starmer's art of the deal is in that one.
Well, I can quickly run you through a simplified version of Thames Water's ownership structure if you really want to.
How long do we have? Shall we start? Someone start the Jeopardy music, and we'll work our way through this. Let's do this. Go on, let's do it.
Right. So basically. So, Thames Water, as you understand it, is not actually one company. It exists of three companies. Thames Water Utilities Holding, which 100% owns Thames Water Utilities, which is the bit that you actually get the water from, which 100% owns Thames Water Utilities Finance. You might think that's enough, but that's not true, because Thames Water is 100% owned by Campbell Water Finance, which also owns Thames Water Campbell Finance and guarantees all of its financing. You might think that's enough, but no, Campbell Water Finance is in its turn owned by Campbell Water Eurobond, which is in its turn owned by Campbell Water Holdings, which is in its turn owned by the external shareholders who are in control of the company.
I stopped paying attention. Can you start over?
But yeah,
what is a confusing pile of shit?
Do you know what I reckon all of that corporate structure does? I reckon it makes it really easy to fund when there's a problem with the infrastructure to ensure that people get water. I reckon it makes it really easy, straightforward, and streamlined.
Yeah. That's really
funding terrorism.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to pay Thames Water in radioactive pound coins, and we're going to trace some of these pound coins through the ecosystem. And oh no, these coins seem to have ended up in the hands of a guy who doesn't give a shit about
every time.
Why are they in Panama? Why is the money in Panama?
Weird how everything always seems to end up here.
Why can I only play at the John Wick Hotel with these radioactive doubloons that you've given me? This is just, but like the whole structure, you don't worry about it too much. But basically, the thing is, like, the thing that went bankrupt isn't Thames Water, the utility itself. That's still there and will, provide some measure of water and some measure of shit in your ocean today and tomorrow. It's one of the financial holding companies that sits above the actual company.
That's fine then.
That's the question, whether or not that's fine, because even though there's like some measures that say you can't pull like money from A into B and you can't put debt from A into B, it's the question mark is like how well the contracts are written, basically.
The only people who can afford the lawyers to... I mean, it's the same people who wrote the contracts in the first place, the lawyers who then inform the private companies how to bypass all the clauses within them. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, so like
unless you're the lawyer who wrote the contract and is now advising Thames Water's various holding companies.
Yeah, so the entity that went bankrupt is Campbell Water Finance, which is the holding company above Thames Water itself, because they have just over £18 billion in debt, which is not the same as Thames Water, the utility where you get your water from, which has its own separate, not the same, legally very distinct, almost 15 billion debt pile as well. So combined, it's a mere 33 billion.
So I assume, and that's because, of course, they've spent £33 billion on infrastructure upgrades. That's why that debt's there, isn't it? That's it's not because of share buybacks and dividends.
Are private planes technically infrastructure?
Somewhere in the south of England, there is like a fucking giant, like an enormous warehouse you can see from space, and it's just filled with sherbet dips. That's what they spent the $33 billion on.
I mean, I don't know the exact like dividend payouts.
Don't spend it all in one place. Challenge accepted.
The only orbital tuck shop there has ever been.
Lembit Opic is the only customer.
So like I don't
cheeky.
Sorry, creating a Kessler syndrome, but just because there's so much sherbet dip flying around in low Earth orbit.
Yeah, the Challenger disaster was actually because of all the fucking sherbet accumulating on the windscreen.
So, like, this convoluted ownership structure wasn't designed by the current owners, but mainly designed by the previous owners, which is the Australian infrastructure company called Macquarie, who, like, extracted a shit ton of dividends and left the company incredibly in debt. I mean, less than it has now, but still. And they exited Thames Water, but they... you'll be pleased to hear they are now the owner-operators of Southern Water instead. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They just, they move one county over.
Just the county lines I've heard so much about.
Yeah. Broken pipes with water leaking into the ground. Yeah, that's it.
So, if you're curious who the actual 9 shareholders are that own everything at the end, like at the top of the pyramid, they include the Chinese and Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth funds, as well as several Canadian and UK pension funds. There are 9 shareholders altogether. So
just clever, because it means that people get upset if you suggest you're going to nationalise it without compensation. Because like, that's my pension. It's like you'll get it. This is the sort of the circle jerk that is modern capitalism. Is that you pin enough people's pension into the stupid profit making thing that lets the people send all their money to Panama and fly around in private jets.
Yeah,
and you create enough of a human shield against just ripping the thing from private hands and nationalising it immediately, bringing it into the state immediately.
That works to a certain extent, but at this point, I don't know what kind of fucking shit pension I'm going to have, so fuck it, you can't have a pension either, I can't, you can't.
I'm pretty sure everyone in our generation basically assumes that we're not going to have a pension. I am assuming that my pension will just be raided by someone nefarious, or i.e. anyone in government, or it'll just actually all get spent to pay for the wreckage of to vaguely keep society functioning when climate change really starts smashing things up.
I don't even think that's the case.
I just assume
like,
I'm not going to have a pension.
Straight up, if I do have any fucking money in a pension at all, I'm just not going to see it, because the age of like receiving it will be 105, and I'll have died 30 years at least before that through overwork.
Yeah, I had high hopes for like my pension that I could get like at least one decent meal deal with like a tuna salad, but I don't think that's happening anymore. I think I'm gonna have to settle for the chicken tikka, and that's just because yogurts are now a mains.
Downgrade from the Boots meal deal to downgrade from the Boots meal deal to a nicer.
Yeah, none of that.
I won't the chicken doesn't have any texture; it's just a shape.
Ooh. I won't have a fancy Pret retirement. It's going to be fucking, Shell Quick Store value meal for me.
I mean, to be honest, that's probably better quality.
Huddling in my cardboard box, sobbing, eating my,
Man,
last
fuck
remaining.
Pret. Honestly, it's fucking dog shit. Like, don't waste your money.
But yeah, so like because it was pretty well known that Thames Water was about to, or Campbell Water Finance was about to like keel over because of some rule changes within Ofwat. I won't like bore you with, but they had already signaled to the government and Ofwat. They said, right, we know this company is about to fall over. We will put in more money and sort of do some infrastructure and stuff. But only if, and this is from the Financial Times, the regulator, Ofwat, approved a 56% real-term increase in customer bills by 2030 and offered concessions on dividend rules and leniency on fines.
And you know what? In a turn up for the books, I'm pretty sure Ofwat, stupidly named Ofwat, said fuck off. It's a rare situation where the regulator actually told them to go fuck themselves. bizarre. Oh. I mean, someone there is on their way out the door, and they're like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to do something here.
A regulator found a single tooth.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
A regulator in the UK doing its job. Just incredible scenes.
All this like existing chaos and like, you know, barely held together or not held together anymore bankruptcy stuff did not prevent...
I mean, the rivers are all full of shit.
The shareholders from taking out almost £38 million in another dividend payment in October of last year. So, you know, are they the good guys? Who could say, honestly? Basically, just as a final note, like we were talking about Thames Water a bit, but they are definitely not the only ones. This is from the FT again. Water companies in England and Wales have paid $2.5 billion in dividends and added $8.2 billion to their net debt in the 2 financial years since 2021, according to our research. So, like, there's a whole bunch of them that are about to go bust as well. Like, pretty much all of them are at substantial risk of going bust because, again, some rules change within Ofwat. I won't bore you with it. I might do an episode on it, but, you know, like, not now, basically. That's a teaser for later.
The hand of government once again being forced to do communism. We hate to see it, folks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both the Tories and Labour have already said that they don't want to do nationalisation, so, like, it'll be like...
Yeah, they don't want to, but, like, then what? Like, okay, so there's just no water now? Like, is that what happens? Labour and Tories?
Absolutely. This is what's incredible, is, like, the default state for a public service is that it can't, like, this is what the tendency to them in the asymptote is collapse and failure, because that's just how, like, there's a fundamental incompatibility with market capitalism and public services. There is a fundamental disconnect there. They are not compatible, and so invariably the result is governments have to either are forced to nationalise it, or it defaults into becoming nationalised by accident. You know, this is just this is what we've seen on the rail network, and it's kind of an inevitability with all the public services. It's just that it would be nice to not waste the time. Let's just skip the pain and just move to the situation where it's the rule that I always have in my head is can it go bust rule. Can water go bust? Can you switch water off and it go bust and then stop functioning? Obviously not. Therefore, it should not be held by private. It should be a part of the state.
Look, Wes Streeting is sitting there going, unless.
Yeah. What a prick he is. Anyway, that's another story.
I mean, basically, Alistair, to answer your question, what I think is going to happen is we talked about a little bit in the context of NatWest a couple of weeks ago, where like the government nationalized it, paid a huge amount to clean up the debt, and then like sold off the shares vastly under what it's worth, and then reprivatized it, quote unquote, into more efficient hands. So like we take it over, we clean it up, temporary nationalization, and then when everybody's looking the other way, we'll just sell it off bit by bit back. Probably to Macquarie or the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Yeah. We've heard this song and dances before. What, 1 million times? We socialise the losses and privatise the gains. Like plus a change. Like
it's like table stakes at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're complaining about. It's called redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, monkey's paw curls over.
Yeah.
This is an ad break on Podcasting as Praxis. This advert is for the Patreon of Podcasting as Praxis. On the Patreon of Podcasting as Praxis, you will get at least one monthly bonus episode of Podcasting as Praxis, where we discuss lots of topics, including new types of guy, celestial boondoggles, monetising whale shit, and, reluctantly, Scott Paul. You will also be able to join the Podcasting as Praxis Discord, a place to talk with like-minded people about lots of topics, including new types of guy, celestial boondoggles, monetising whale shit, but not Scott Paul, and also, of course, Podcasting as Praxis. If that isn't enough Podcasting as Praxis for you, the Discord also includes a bonus channel where we post the bits that don't make the final cut of the episodes. Fans of both mediocre and bad podcasting have everything to gain by subscribing to the Patreon of Podcasting as Praxis. You will also no longer get ads on episodes of Podcasting as Praxis. £5 a month will get you all of that and maybe more at patreon.com/, you guessed it, PraxisCast. That's patreon.com/PraxisCast, the place where we sell podcasting as praxis.
Well, speaking of monkeys' paws curling over, shall we talk about some trains?
Yes.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, I mean, specifically, you have to. That's
it's the torture I submit
Yeah,
myself
we're
to.
going to sit
that's
here
fair.
in silence for the next hour.
So basically, what I wanted to talk about today is, HS2 is probably definitely, I assume, dead. R.I.P. We never knew ye. We never took a ride on you. But instead we have the government's plans announced. I think it was October or November last year, called Network North. Which
that sounds like a real thing that they're definitely going to do.
Yeah, I take psychic damage every time I hear those two words put together like that.
Was Network North
yeah,
not
so
a
HS
thick of it bit?
It pretty much is a thick of it bit. Yeah, it's a thick. It's doubly funny. It's a thick of it bit, and it's also the name made up by two retired old guys who created this rival to HS2 that they called Network North, and it was like classic italic Arial late 90s website fare. The graphics were spectacularly hopeless, and for a brief moment, I received lots of messages from various journalists going, "Has the government picked up Colin Elliff and Quentin MacDonald's Network North plans?" To which my response was, quite possibly. And actually, it managed to be even worse, which is something. So we'll get to Network North. Okay, what the fuck has happened to HS2? Let's just. What has happened to HS2?
That's not a real question. That's just an exclamation.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's just that, and that's it. And that's practice. There we go. Podcasting is practice. Everyone, good night.
Yeah.
Right. So, HS2. Was a network design. It was basically a series of lines, kind of converging on Birmingham, that provided large-scale relief to Britain's already saturated main lines. The problem with Britain's railway network is that it does everything all at once, so you have lots of major bottlenecks because all the main lines also do everything else as well. They're particularly in Birmingham is a good example. They are, in fact, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds. The intercity main line is also the suburban and commuting line all at the same time, which means that it does all of them badly. HS2 basically gave several of the UK's largest cities a free suburban rail network with which they could do with what they please. However, the problem with it is that it involves spending some money, which Treasury hates doing. Mm-hmm. And also Sunak thought, because he is a kind of a recurring theme with the Tories is that they've stopped listening to anyone who knows anything about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, why would you? That's stupid. Why would I do a thing like that when I can listen to the voices in my fucking head?
Yeah, why would I listen to someone who's telling me that I need to do something I don't want to do when I can listen to people telling me what I do want to do? And those guys always have great ideas.
Yeah, and those guys are 4 columnists in The Spectator. And those 4 columnists in The Spectator were telling Sunak that he would have an incredible about-face in his electoral polling fortunes if he simply cancelled HS2. So he stood up in a move that he claimed was nothing to do with electoral politics, and weirdly a move that lots of other people have claimed has nothing to do with electoral politics. He stood up in the Conservative Party conference in his speech and
genuinely thought you were going to say in his pyjamas there for some reason.
I mean, it would be, yeah. Well, this is it. He could be in his pajamas. Who knows? Anyway, he stood up and he said, "Hi guys, I've cancelled HS2," and so he did. So all that he has left of HS2, which was originally a line running from London Euston to Birmingham, with splitting into 2 and going in one direction up to Scotland via Manchester, with the new line running up to just north of Manchester and linking with the West Coast Main Line, and then the eastern leg going up to Leeds, and then also going beyond Leeds to connect to the East Coast Main Line, kind of providing relief for the vast majority of population centres in the UK, kind of following the kind of the main core of our 2, and providing relief for the West Coast Main Line, the Midland Main Line, the East Coast Main Line, along with pretty much every bit of railway kind of running next to them, running into them, and so on. So a huge relief to the network. All of that there, HS2, has now been reduced to Old Oak Common to Birmingham, just that short stretch. They've not even. There are currently no plans to deliver the line from Old Oak Common into Euston either.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to Euston because like Euston, there was like this whole thing that was like one of the more recent things I read is that apparently they briefly thought that they could get like private developers to pay for the last stretch into Euston and Euston Station instead of Old Oak Common. Like that they could like
they're still trying to do that.
Private entities love building infrastructure, and particularly they love building railways. They just love it in the 21st century. Can't get enough of it.
They cannot. Yeah, no. Basically, the intention was, and this is already the case, that Lend-Lease, were one of the major. In fact, one of the reasons why Euston Station was escalating. Well, there are two main reasons why Euston Station was escalating massively in cost. Number one reason, Crossrail 2 got cancelled, and Crossrail 2 was originally going to be paying the £1.5 billion to deal with all of the problems in the underground station at and near Euston, because the London Underground network around Euston is an absolute shambles. Anyone who's tried to get there's no you compare it to King's Cross, where you've got several large concourses to kind of collect people underground before you even get above ground. That isn't the case at Euston. It's just like three knackered escalators, of which one is always broken, and then you appear into the doom hall of Euston Station shed. It's so Crossrail 2 was cancelled by central government pulling TfL's grant, which meant that that all that money suddenly HS2 was paying for a load of London Underground upgrades. Second problem was that there were too many people trying to put. Well, basically, government was pushing HS2 and Limited and the various other stakeholders to do everything Lend-Lease wanted, so that Lend-Lease could make money and then, in theory, pay back some money towards the cost of the station. Except that building a concrete raft to build a load of shit high-rise flats on top of is fundamentally incompatible with building a state-of-the-art, well-lit and pleasant large station. Large intercity station. So we have a situation where
but
you
Gareth,
already are paying $1.5 billion.
Have you considered the importance of building luxury flats in London? They've run out. They're very short on them.
It's true. There aren't low. You can't stand on. Take a boat along the Thames and look at all of the lights off on all of the luxury flats that have been thrown up in, I don't know, Blackfriars. Still, the Shard is still half empty. Yeah, no, definitely not. Everything around the Tay is still empty. Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, so yeah, we have the situation where Euston was. And also, the Lend-Lease were only going to be giving like £500 million back of a station that was going to cost £3 or £4 billion. Like, it's a big, complex station. It should have been delivered as its own project, not as part of HS2 anyway, but that's another story. The delivery model for HS2 is a complete shit show, but, again, one for another time perhaps, or maybe for later. So you have the situation where Euston, the key connection from London into the rest of the HS2 network, and basically the reason that you get that capacity relief, because you have a central kind of a city centre terminus, and it justifies people hopping on HS2 rather than trying to use the existing high-speed, the existing long-distance services. You get that capacity relief. Without the station in London, HS2 doesn't work. So the government's broken it, and that's before we think about the fact that they've cancelled everything north of Birmingham.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because we've talked about HS2 on also with you, but on like previous podcasts. What the fuck is Old Oak Common, and is there anything there?
Old Oak Common. The reason Old Oak Common exists is because it provides an interchange with the Great Western Main Line and with Crossrail to get you to Heathrow. So Old Oak Common essentially provides a link. And Old Oak Common is one of the London transport plans for major kind of transport hubs. The other ones being Stratford, Lewisham, and Clapham Junction? ? I can't remember. It might not be Clapham Junction. But anyway, Old Oak Common is another one. And essentially, these kind of four slightly outside of London major transport interchanges that are kind of being developed alongside London Overground to kind of mean that people could avoid going into the centre of London to make the... So Old Oak Common kind of makes sense. And it also provides you that Heathrow connectivity, which means that people can choose the train rather than taking short-haul flights to get to Heathrow, which makes some sense.
Yeah, but now I have to get like a shorter train to get to Old Oak Common to then do something, right?
Yeah, like so Old Oak Common as well. It meant that if you're going to Cardiff or if you're going down to the southwest, you could get HS2 and then change at Old Oak Common rather than going to Euston. So it avoids you having to go from Euston to Paddington. So Old Oak Common makes some sense, but it does not make sense as a terminus. It makes sense as a through station where a certain number of trains an hour would stop. So yeah, baffling decision there. And the station is, bearing in mind, right, this is a key thing to remember. Meddling with a project after the design has been completed costs a lot of money. So for any project, no matter how big or small, you should be spending around about 20% of the capital cost on design and development. So if you've got a, say, £100 billion project, then £20 billion will be spent on people like me to actually design the thing. If you've got a station that's £5 billion, £1 billion is design. So if you keep changing it, every time you make a major change, or for example, cut a platform, or say, no, we're only doing 6 platforms now, we're talking about hundreds of millions of pounds of wasted money on repeating work. Spec the thing, design the thing, build the thing, fuck off. It's a very straightforward project cycle. The last bit's very important. The fuck off bit is incredibly important for them. So we have a situation where Euston, which should frankly be a ridiculously it should be a hugely expensive, ridiculous, over-designed jewel in the crown, because it's the intercity railway station. We should be proud of this stuff. This is public transport. Public transport doesn't have to be crap. It can be cool. It can be bold. It can be delightful.
That's where you're wrong. This is Britain. Things have to suck, otherwise people might get ideas that things could be better.
Yeah. So that's screwed up. So okay, in London, that's screwed up. Further north, we have the fact that the railway is gone north of Birmingham. The consequence of that is that it's funny because all of a sudden you have these news articles coming out saying now HS2 will now be slower than existing trains. HS2 is going to reduce capacity on the existing network. All these things that are basically reinforcing arguments I've been making in favour of HS2 for like 10 years now. All basically because they're going to run the HS2 services on the existing network north of Birmingham, which will result in, at best, no improvement to capacity. And actually, because the HS2 trains will be quite substantially shorter than the current Pendolinos that run on the West Coast Main Line, the HS2 is actually going to result in a dramatic reduction in capacity between London and Manchester. This is what happens if you don't build the full railway line. It's so abhorrently frustrating that everything that I've been saying was everything that people, advocates of HS2, particularly myself, saying we need this railway. This is why the railway is a good idea. All of it's now coming true, and we're going to continue to see, stories about Euston getting dangerously overcrowded. Another example. We're going to see stories like this. Another one. The East Coast Main Line timetable will not work now. There is not enough capacity to, for running any more services. We've got all these stupid open access services like Lumo hogging paths and not stopping at certain stations, which means that more and more local stations are getting a worse and worse service. We now are basically in a situation where the timetable has not been updated on the East Coast Main Line for several years because politically no one can agree, and in terms of it physically working and there being the capacity, it doesn't work. HS2 was a critical part in freeing up some of that capacity. So all of these stories, all these headlines proving why HS2 is necessary, annoyingly, most of them happening now. We didn't see all these stories before because all you got was the people going, "Oh, it's costing so much." It's like, well, yeah, because it's a new railway.
It's a big fuck-off
railway
project.
Like, what do you expect? It's a big
you
fucking
drill
railway project.
100
Exactly.
tunnels through like the Chiltern and shit. Like that costs some money.
Exactly, and it's what's funny is that it's such a It's like £100 billion sounds like a lot of money. It isn't a lot of money. It's spending about £2 to £4 billion a year, which is absolute peanuts. For scale, the NHS budget is around about 130 to 150 billion a year. Every penny worth it, should be spending more. But it's just to give you an idea of scale. Like, that's the amount we're spending on the NHS. That's not social care, that's just the NHS. So spending 2 or 3 billion quid a year is like NHS budget rounding errors.
You spend on
HS2. It's not a lot of money.
It's also the idea that spending £100 billion and you spent £100 billion and that money has now disappeared for no reward. Like, you get a thing. You spend the money and you get a thing. You could do other things with.
And not only that, but where do the thing about spending that money on the thing about spending money on railway infrastructure is that quite a lot of the money actually goes into humans' pockets. Yes, there is, sadly because of the structure of Britain, there is plenty of profit that comes out at the contractor level, there's profit that comes out at the consultancy level, there's profit that comes out from all the companies, and a point that I often make is that Britain's entire economy is set up to extract value from the spaces between the bits of the economy that actually do stuff. So all the economic value is perceived as being all the interfaces. Yeah. So the neoliberal view is that the more interfaces you create, the more valuable your economy is. That works if you're delivering financial services, maybe, although actually even on that it doesn't. But if you're delivering a physical thing like a public service or a railway, actually what it means is it takes 20 years to even decide to do the thing, and it takes even more time to build the thing, and it costs a lot more money. One weird
trick to reduce these massive costs for HS2, which might make it more palatable for Conservative voters, Labour voters alike, is we build them under full communism. Therefore, we have eliminated the profit motive. Therefore, massive savings.
Yeah, but I wanted to.
I mean, you joke, but
I wanted to.
Sorry, go on.
Move on a little bit from just simply explaining why cancelling HS2 is stupid and bad, to actually instead saying, Gareth, why do you think it's not important to save £36 billion and create Network North? And fix potholes.
Oh God, Network North. I was deliberately filibustering to avoid talking about Network North. So it kind of leads on from the point we were just making, which is that you spend the money on the right thing, and the limitations on us delivering rail infrastructure, as with so many things in this country, is not actually the money at all. It's the lack of humans, the lack of skilled people. The lack of the lack of people, and then obviously the lack of political will behind it for sure. But even if you did have the political will and you wrote a blank check, the limitation is on the ability to deliver it. So the advantage of doing a big single major project, or as it should have been delivered as a series of schemes, but delivering HS2, however the delivery model was, delivering a thing that looks like what HS2 was originally planned to, was that it was firstly not on the existing railway network, so you can actually do a lot of the stuff. You could rely on other engineers, highways engineers, for example, to do some of the work. So you're widening the pool of engineering expertise. You're widening the machinery you can use, because it's not on a railway site, it's in a normal brownfield or greenfield site, so you can use a wider pool of kit. And also, it's one project rather than hundreds, which means that you're able to deliver it reasonably quickly. So HS2 being delivered, if it had been delivered to its original timeline, you'd have got a lot of the benefits, a sizable number of the benefits within a decade of it being built. The trouble with deciding not to do that and going for dozens or more of little schemes, firstly, is that those little schemes achieve sweet fuck all by comparison to HS2. Secondly, it's that we cannot deliver them as quickly because there are lots of schemes, and that involves lots and lots of engineers. We do not have the capacity to deliver all those individual schemes. So the ability to actually gain those benefits is greatly diminished. Not to mention the fact that it's lots of individual bits that are not to mention the fact that all of it's fake anyway. Like the Network North report, as we'll get into, is just stuff that was pulled together very hastily in a hotel room, or at least in the 2 weeks in advance of the Conservative Party conference.
Yeah, so I wanted to read a little bit, because I think Gareth has been quite negative at the moment. I wanted to read a little bit of the positive
So you need to be punished.
Talking Britain down, we hate to see.
It's true, it's fair.
Yeah, so I wanted to read you a little bit from the foreword from Rishi Sunak to the Network North paper, which I read to my great enjoyment. Our plan breaks with the failed consensus of the past, which saw too much investment go to Westminster's transport priorities. Instead, we are going to invest in the transport that really matters to people, the roads, buses and railways they use every day.
It's the same thing! It's the same thing!
So firstly,
same thing!
It's worth pointing out that HS2, in a rare situation for the UK, HS2 had immense cross-party support. Generally, the further north you got, the more the local politicians understood its actual purpose and value. There's a reason why the unions were in favour of it, like lots of work. It's a long-term sustainable transport project, which is good because it employs lots of unionised workers. Like, this is by any measure of democracy, HS2 is a popular one, other than the Chiltern NIMBYs who were annoyed that they weren't getting their way for once. So idea of the failed... So that's one problem, right? The idea that he's doing something democratic. Can I just reiterate? He cancelled it on a fucking whim in the Conservative Party conference just for a bit in his speech. Hi, guys. So, absolutely, just like what's democratic about that? Secondly,
your voice work is incredible. They should let you do Thomas and Friends.
I nearly did my Ringo Starr there. Anyway, right, so...
Thomas embraces the immortal science of Marxism and Leninism.
Now, there is a Thomas series I would watch. The other thing, okay, so Network North, I'm going to say it, and it causes me psychic damage every time I say it, included lots of road projects. So that is a railway scheme being cancelled in favour of lots of road spending, except that it isn't, because I'm going to just say now, the money for HS2 doesn't exist and never did. It only exists when the money lands in the contractor's bank accounts.
Yeah.
That money doesn't exist until that moment. Like, until then, the money doesn't exist, and government could say that it exists, say it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. The money isn't there. It only exists when it lands in the bank account of one of the contractors actually building the thing, so that people can actually take that money out and spend it on stuff.
I'll just add, like,
one
of the best things you can do for road infrastructure to make it more pleasant, more environmentally friendly, if you like, is to build fucking trains. If you're taking these fucking cars off the road, you don't sit in there.
Yeah, because the local businesses, like the local tradespeople, the disabled people who have to drive, they all get a more clear road when you get rid of all the people who've decided they're going to drive from like halfway outside Nottingham to Derby because the trains are shit. Like that's what it's all about. It's about all those unnecessary journeys, of which there are so many, like millions of journeys a day in the UK that are just so easily could be facilitated by rail, except that we have not built any new capacity any major new capacity into the system for decades. So the other point about Westminster transport priorities. Again, key point, HS2 was a local railway project. It enabled a local railway revolution because you gave local railways back. You essentially took those long-distance intercity, London-focused transport, services, took them off onto this new system, and it freed up the existing railway to be used by local people. So you had a chance for example, Manchester to take more control over its railway network. The other thing, of course, is... what on earth are they talking about of them giving... They're not giving any funding or decision-making powers to local authorities or to devolved authorities. This is an entirely Westminster-driven plan. So there is nothing about any sort of level of devolution here.
No, they do promise some money in the thing, but it's not going to be real, of course. But again, I think you're being really negative. I want to go back to quoting some more from Rishi Sunak.
Yes, yeah.
Outside London, our great cities and our smaller towns are not achieving their potential because their transport networks are so poor. Quote,
yeah.
The great majority of journeys are local, so we need to improve the everyday local transport people want and use the most. Buses are the most popular form of transport. Yet we've spent 3 times as much on trains.
Buses are the most popular form of public transport, yet we spend 3 times as much on trains. Yes, all right, Rishi.
Yeah. In short, HS2 traps enormous sums of money that could be far better spent elsewhere. Network North will be a new approach to transport in the country. I assure you it will not be, because it's not fucking true.
What was that thing that George Osborne had?
The Northern Powerhouse.
How's that working out?
The Northern Powerhouse, there's
going?
Northern Powerhouse Rail, there's the Levelling Up Fund, the Midlands Engine, the Towns Deals, the High Street Fund, they all do fucking nothing.
Yeah, I mean, because they're all north of Luton, so of course they're not going to fucking happen.
No, Levelling Up money's gone to Canary Wharf Group, though. They got about 240 million.
Oh yeah, they did.
South of Luton.
Yeah. Good stuff. Of course. I'm not going to repeat myself. All of what Dishy Rishi said there is in complete contrast to actually what HS2 facilitates. So I'm not going to repeat that. You all know that. Yes, I did just headbutt my microphone. So the idea of the other thing about buses is not, other than buying the bus, which is unbelievably cheap and easy to do. Buses that's revenue cost. So why are we conflating capital expenditure with revenue, even if we accept the fact that it's not true that you can move money between capital funds, because it doesn't work. Every project, the way government funding works under the current system, by the way, not under our kind of socialist utopia, but under the current bloody system, every project justifies its own merits for funding. So if a project wipes its face in terms of its business, its cost-benefit ratio, then that money it merits, the money is borrowed on the merit of that project, because the logic is that it brings a return, so it makes sense to borrow that money. That's the Treasury does not follow that logic ever, but that is that is actually the current system. Even the shit system that we have, that is theoretically what it's supposed to be. So HS2 justified its own. It's not money that we've taken away from anything else. It's money that comes out of thin air to pay for the thing because we borrow the money to pay for it. Bonds,
the money is fake and bullshit, and
money's fake and bullshit. Yeah, exactly.
Money's
fake and
the
bullshit.
only thing that's real is sticking a shovel in the fucking ground and laying a fucking mile
which
of
we
railway,
cannot do,
which you are not allowed to
exactly.
do. Yes,
impossible, not allowed to do. So the Network North stuff, it's all so right. Let's take at face value. Okay, they're going to do all the massive spending on the existing railway that they've talked about. Let's just jump back to a project that where last time we did that, which was actually there's two. There's one happening right now. The Trans-Pennine Route upgrade. We're spending the best part of 15 billion quid on the line between Manchester and York via Leeds. A line which it would have, firstly, it would have cost us a lot less to do that work if we'd done it when we should have done it in the 90s when half the trains are running. But, that is a very expensive bit of railway upgrade. Billions and billions being spent on upgrading an existing railway line. It's very, very expensive. That's half the money that it would have cost to build a new line across the Pennines. Trans-Pennine Route upgrade, absolutely necessary project, massively overdue, fine. Another project that was absolutely necessary, long overdue, and ended up just immediately having all of its capacity swallowed up was the West Coast route modernisation in the late 90s and the early 2000s, which was what in today's money is about 25 to 30 billion pounds were spent upgrading the West Coast route, West Coast main line between London up to Glasgow, mostly London to Manchester, and that released a huge amount of additional capacity. Well, actually it didn't. It released a marginal amount of additional capacity, which was immediately gobbled up by the fact that people just wanted to get the train. So they spent 30 billion quid, bankrupt rail track, all the other problems that caused, all the disruption. It took years, and it was huge amounts of disruption for travellers. And before they'd even signed the contract, in fact, a year before they'd signed the contracts on finishing the project, the capacity had all been gobbled up, and government had decided it needed to build HS2. So, this is what we've completely unlearned that lesson, which is, you can't achieve this stuff on the existing network.
That's because learning lessons is stupid. Why do you want us to
learning lessons is stupid? Only the left remember. Yeah.
Why
exactly.
Why do you hate Britain? Why do you want to do Britain down by learning lessons?
So anyway, sorry, I'll let you continue on. I'm getting angry again. Continue something. Tell me I'm wrong again. Read some more from Dishy Rishi. What's he got to say?
So, I'm going to stop reading from the forward now because I think we all get that. But there's. Again, I think this must have been like a midnight put together job on the eve of conference, because there's so much repetition and filler in this thing. It just feels like they've just read a bunch of
it's large
Wikipedia
language model
pages.
shit, right? It's hopeless. Yeah, it really is. They've gone through all the Wikipedia pages, which are really bad. Rail projects in the UK have really bad Wikipedia pages. There's just no information, partly because government deliberately doesn't publish any information about them. So, they picked up a bunch of whoever they could find in the DFT to actually work on this thing. They shook them upside down to get all the rail projects that are actually in the pipeline so they could put them in. They made
bunch
up
of fucking
some,
Hornby track falling out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll read you
stuff.
There's pages of it. I'll skip nearly all of it because it is mind-numbing. But just so you get a flavour, in the northeast during morning rush hour, it takes over an hour to get from Blyth into Newcastle city centre by bus. To commute to the Team Valley Industrial Estate to the south of Gateshead, one of the largest industrial estates in Europe with 700 businesses and 25,000 jobs,
my God.
the journey by bus would take an hour and a half, despite being only 20 miles away, and it just goes on and on and on and on like that. It's just...
I wonder why those situations might have occurred. Might it be because we prioritise long-distance services on the East Coast Main Line over local services?
But they do answer the important sort of nigh philosophical question is, why do we need all this transport anyway, this public or road network otherwise? And the answer is,
why
of course,
can't people
economy.
just sit still?
Well, that's because, Jamie, we know that improving transport can change everything. A good transport network matches workers to jobs, delivers products to markets, and supports supply chains as well as domestic and international trade.
I'm learning so much. Yeah. What does Webster's dictionary define railway as?
Yeah.
But Alistair, it's more than
the railway is the powerhouse of the cell.
Damn right it is.
But Alistair, did you know that a deeper pool of workers also attracts more businesses to locate in northern cities?
I did not know that. I'm learning so much from this report.
They had to create a thing that looked like a report, and they had to do it in 2 weeks. and they.
This is what ChatGPT's for.
This is literally ChatGPT. This is literally ChatGPT. Yeah, absolutely shocking. A reminder: £100 billion, 50 years of consensus building, and tens of thousands of jobs chucked on the bonfire for this piece of shit. I'm referring to both the report and Rishi Sunak here.
So, like, the report also keeps going on, and, you know, it is true. Buses are very good, and we like buses a lot. And
buses are great. Buses are absolutely great. Yeah.
A lot of people take buses, but they seem weirdly unable or unwilling to explain why there are so few buses and routes, and, you know, what could possibly lie at the root of all of that. Please don't worry your pretty little head about that. And basically, that's because...
Do not Google deregulation.
And basically, that's because
do not listen to this podcast either.
That's why they have some stats as well. It's basically most people in the UK make their trips by car, and that's why we should invest a lot in cars, because people drive.
People drive their cars everywhere because they love driving their cars. That's why you need to build more road so that there can be more people in their cars loving their time sat in a traffic jam while they're trying to go from Birmingham to London.
While the water level
for some
rises
reason.
around their ankles, knees, and mouth. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the level of understanding we're talking about here. Mark Harper is a vampire in a suit. He comes across as a boring dimwit, but he's one of the most hostile transport secretaries that the UK has seen for a long time. And within that, let's remind ourselves, within that was Grant Shapps and what's the name of the tall Grayling?
Chris Grayling. That's some really fucking stiff competition.
Harper. Way worse than those two.
Let's be fair. Chris Grayling is just a small child that has somehow managed to reverse Benjamin Button himself
into a tall man. Yeah, it's strange.
Make a Wish Foundation with the monkey's paw.
He was being quizzed by the Transport Select Committee, and he just repeatedly said that it's about time that the Department for Transport stopped being the Department for Rail. To which I was like, Have you seen anything about Britain and how people move around the country in the last 30 years? There was a report by the Royal Commission on Environmental Pollution that was published in 1994 that said that let me see if I'm going to paraphrase the quote, even though I read it in lectures every few weeks. The Department for Transport has failed to create an effective strategic transport plan. And that was in 1994, and carbon emissions from transport in the UK have flatlined, have remained the same. Everything else has improved. Transport has remained exactly the same since, the whole time I've been alive. And the reason for that is because 90% of people and things move around by road. And the way we fix that is not by increasing road investment.
You know, you would think that the party that is supposed to be, you know, the party of tradition and, you know, the way things used to be in the good old days, you know, the railways of Britain is surely even in spite of the sad reversal of nationalisation, one of the things that Britain is most well known for, in terms of, you know, modern history. It's completely insane.
It is baffling. And you know what's even more baffling than that is that actually the legacy of the Conservatives over the last even 40 years is one of, they did not spend a huge amount of money on the railways during Thatcher's years, but actually they were they did a better job than New Labour did. New Labour, the Rail's legacy under New Labour is not a good one. Labour just ignored rail. New Labour did. They ignored rail and hoped that it would go away, and it repeatedly caused them a thorn in their side because they refused to engage with it. Whereas, funnily enough, the coalition government and the successive Tory governments did actually spend a lot of money on the railways. I'm not saying they did it because they are good people, but they, by accident and stupidity and kind of by there being a general cross-party consensus that has now gone, a cross-party consensus that rail was a good idea, spent 100 billion quid on railways, between 2009 and 2020. So it's a strange situation that they're going against. That they are actually now breaking from that. It's partly to do with the fact that the Tory party is dying. Like it is dying. It has no idea what it's for, and so they are dissociating themselves from even their like kind of voter base, which is moved from people who like to see a steam train in the distance to people who think they should be able to drive their car over all pedestrians.
It does feel like the juddering of the corpse of the Conservative Party, just trying to do anything as, you know, the life slowly disappears from their eyes, and like get rid of HS2 is like the last thing that they utter on their deathbed.
It comes back to the irony. It comes back to what I was saying about this being a completely about polling. The irony is that this didn't land. Everyone hated it everyone was like, "You fucking nitwits! You got rid of HS2. This was actually Britain can't do anything. You stupid prat." And it resulted. Their polling took a hit, and all of the red walls kind of MPs started getting jittery because funnily enough, their constituents generally have an understanding of what HS2 actually meant for them. This is the thing. This happened in May 2018 with the timetable meltdown. It happens consistently. Is an underestimation of the provincial parts of the country's relationship with transport, particularly the north. The north gets transport because they have to deal with it so much because it's so shit.
They all sound incredibly ungrateful. Like, you know what I mean? The government has given them just all the racism they could eat. What more could they possibly fucking want?
What we need is gollywogs on the trains.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what we will definitely get is, what's left of HS2. Like, all that's left is like this paragraph saying, we will embed a focus on cost control. We will bear down on costs. We will reinforce the leadership. We will change the culture on cost control so that more, like, the Treasury and the Department of Transport and some more people can have, like, you know, their say in anything before HS2 spends some fucking money, and strengthen governance and control from the government, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, no Phase 2A, 2B, or HS2 East, which is basically the line from Birmingham to Manchester or Birmingham to East Midlands Airport, and of
course the Leeds leg has already been cancelled, you know, so let's not forget that.
And, I mean, I know we briefly touched on Euston before, but just this line is fucking incredible, that the redesign of Euston will no longer be, quote, a gold-plated and over-specified station.
Gold-plated?
Like, it'd be quite nice if it was gold-plated. Also, fucking, why not? You know, I'll just reiterate the point. This is the station that provides access from London and the rest of Europe to most of the rest of the country. It should be fucking spend all of the money on it. Like, it should be mental. It should be insane. It should be brilliant. It should be completely barking mad. It should be architecturally loopy. It should be something that is really exciting, fun, engaging, ridiculous. Waste money on it. That's fine. That's exactly what we should be wasting money on, because the money you waste on it ends up in actual people's pockets that go out and actually spend money.
And at the end of it, you get a big fucking train station.
Yeah.
Transport is meant to be boring, though. It's like you go to the airport, you know what I mean? And that should be exciting because you're getting to go in the fucking sky. How often do you get to do that? But instead you just queue for ages and then like get sick of your life.
Like, Euston Station should have like a temple to Bast and like a temple to Ra. Like, I should be able to, you know, make sure that my soul weighs no more than a big feather. Like, I want that kind of railway station.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about like us building like a fascist monument like Milan Centrale, but we should be talking about an enormous, beautiful structure. This should be a beautiful state. It should have loads of public realm, should be loads of public space, it should be light, it should be airy, it should be really well connected into the city, and Lend-Lease should be yeeted into the fucking sun so that there's no private, no kind of development happening. You know, this pointless private development to raise a couple of pennies against the project.
What they should do
the project
is
cost.
They should build a pyramid for that station that's even bigger than that fucking fish and shop in America.
Yeah, Basketball Central.
Yeah.
Well, bigger even than the Stockport Cooperative Pyramid. Oh my goodness.
I don't know what that is. I confess to not being a pyramid expert. I only know the really famous one.
Not much of a pyramid head.
Yeah, and then we reverse we reverse that pyramid underground, and then we bury the evidence of Jesus having a family underneath there.
Yes, all this stuff about Euston is partly because of all the reasons I've talked about before, why it's costing more, but also because it's a really big, complicated mess. Part of the reason why HS2 was started in
like
London
a
and
major
driven
urban area while making sure you don't people
one of the
don't
most
hate
complex
you.
Absolutely, one of the most complex urban environments in the world to build in. It's incredibly, ancient. If you look at if you get Open Railway Map up, if you're a nerd, you can or Open Street Map, you can see how many tunnels there are snaking through, just railway tunnels snaking all over the place. Let alone all the other stuff that's underneath. Just an enormously complicated site, like hugely complicated site.
I don't think I've ever made something more complicated in city skylines.
I know, right? Yeah, that's it. It's unbelievable. Just stuff piled on stuff. And the reason that the HS2 often moaned about that HS2 should have started in the north. Sure, one of the reasons it wasn't is because HS2 was Euston was so complicated. It needed to be started early because it would take a very long time to get it sorted. Part of the reason that it's taking a long time. This overspecified thing is nonsense. It's because the government has changed the design like 4 times. And every time they do that, the project is delayed. So, for example, it was going to be built as a 2-stage construction. They had built and all the expensive signalling connections to build rail access into the northern throat of the existing Euston station, a very complicated area. They built a connection so that stuff could run, trains could run with material and spoil and stuff in and out of that site. They built that, spent all the money on that. That'll have been tens, if not 100 million quid's worth of very complicated stuff going on to do that. Government changed its mind, decided it was going to be a single stage 10 platform build instead, and as a result of that, all that connection was a waste of money and had to get ripped up and set right, which will have cost probably another 50% again of the putting it in the first place. So we're talking about enormous amounts of money wasted by government just not sticking to its original plan. Yeah. And that's because they're cowards and because they cannot see. They are absolutely incapable of having a view of the future. They have no imagination. People are absolutely dead behind the eyes.
It's the beauty of the neoliberal mind, just completely capturing.
It's fucking smooth brains, nothing in there.
All that matters is the return over the next quarter, the fucking polling that comes out tomorrow, right? Like, even if.
But I have really good news for you guys.
But also that you don't learn any lessons.
There's a solution for this. I'll quote you again from the report. We will appoint a development company separate from HS2 Limited to manage the delivery of the Euston project. We will also take lessons from success stories such as the Battersea Power Station and Nine Elms, which secured 9 billion of private sector investment and thousands of homes. So what we get, instead of a functioning station, is more little guys with more little companies, more middlemen, and, more luxury flats. What's not to love?
Oh man! Imagine being one of the guys that decides to build a bunch of luxury flats on top, and then being surprised when all the people that move into them, or all 4 of the people that actually do move in, end up complaining about the fucking noise.
Yeah.
Anyone wants to walk around Battersea Power Station and Nine Elms to see some of the worst urban development in the world.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely awful.
Just depressing.
The development around Battersea is just fucking hideous. It's so dreadful. Like, I'm not against high-rise and big development. There are lots of genuinely good developments around London that are actually, reasonably, medium if not high density. They're much more appealing. But what's going, even some of the mediumly crock of shit, really still not too happy about it, stuff going on at Elephant and Castle. At least it's thinking about urban realm, even if it has bulldozed the old mall and is gentrifying an area. At the bare minimum, at least some of that urban realm is of reasonable quality. Whereas you wander around Battersea Power Station and it's awful. It's just absolutely, other than the bit by the Thames. As soon as you go in and try and get anywhere near into the city, it's just all designed for people to drive into the underground car park. It's completely hostile. It's awful. And that's exactly what's being thought of as being a good example for what's happening.
But I don't just want to dwell on Euston and London. Neither does this report, because on the subtitle of Network North is, of course, a new plan for the North. And the reason that it's a new plan for the North is that they only start talking about it on page 26 of 40. So, just... just to show you how important it is. So the first few pages very repetitive. It's stuff we've already been talking about. And it gets, the whole thing is like wildly, surreally repetitive. Again,
you know what?
36...
Jamie, do you remember that article about Helldivers I sent you the other day? That's what's on my mind at the moment. So this article about Helldivers just had the same 2 or 3 points of information repeated
repeated forever.
Yeah, repeated forever, and so for some reason that comes to mind.
there's they say again, we have unlocked £36 billion because we're not doing like the northern sections of HS2, that's not how finance works, but whatever. And then they have like this long list. It's like A through R of new projects. So of just like, which I assume are like, and Gareth, correct me if I'm wrong, these are not new projects, they're existing or old projects with like a new logo slapped on them to make them
including some that have been completed years ago. So I know that's been done to death, but there are several projects that either refer to wrong parts of the country, or let's not talk about the fact that lots of the Network North projects are in the south and are road projects, but lots of the projects that were in the north, or a number of projects that were in the north, are things that have already happened. That have already been built, extensions of Nottingham tram network that have already happened. They were talking about new platforms at Manchester Station, which is like they're referring to the tram extension to Manchester Airport, and it's like, no, that's been built. That's already been built. Yeah. You need to do better Google searching to build your report.
Speaking of roads, though, one of my favorite bits, because again, this is the new plan for the north. Remember, this is one of their like bullet points of things they're going to do. But see if you can work out where it's going to take place. Again, this is the new plan for the north. Ensure the delivery of 70 road schemes across the country, including 21 in the north, 10 in the Midlands, and 39 in the rest of the country.
Huh. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, to be honest. Yeah, but if you say north on the cover, the stupid northerners will believe you.
Yeah. I mean, that's how also that works. One of my favorite ones. I haven't looked into this because I wanted to ask you, Gareth, because I assume you do this. They blithely say reopen Beeching lines to reconnect areas like County Durham, Burton, Stocksbridge, and Waverley. Now, I remember briefly reading about this stuff and like reopening or like relaying like a properly closed bit of rail that got closed on the Beeching. Fucking world-class vandal that he was, but, like, that's not going to happen with £36 billion, is it?
No, I did. Someone asked me this the other day. They were like, how much would it cost to put the rail network back to how it was in 1914 when the network was at its largest? And I did the quick sums.
Well, exhume Beeching for a start.
Yeah, like it's.
We put him on trial like that dead pope. We just chuck him back in a chair and like burn him.
Beeching wasn't the worst. The worst crime of Beeching wasn't him closing the local railway lines. It was actually this problem of him closing city centre lines that meant that we ended up not having this duplication. So we had all the traffic using the same tracks and stations. He should have left all the duplicate stations in city centres. That was the biggest mistake. No, Beeching wasn't the worst of it. Beeching did a job and so on. Anyway, that's another episode. I did this up. £650 billion it would take to get us back to where we were in 1915. 650 billion, give or take a few pounds. 650 billion pounds is a little bit more than 36. A little bit,
just a hair.
Yeah.
No, I think
so. It's whenever I have to say, I have the QI klaxon go off in my head whenever I see anyone saying whenever I see politicians saying reopen Beeching or reverse Beeching. It's like massive red flag, because they're not thinking about how our strategic rail network should look. They're thinking about how do I do projects that allow my local increased likelihood of local elections going my way. Yeah.
I mean, look, if the Tories want to spend £360 billion on the railways, I won't stop them.
Absolutely. Yeah, the things I could do with 650 billion quid.
We talked about like an old episode where we did about we've done several, but on leveling up, and I think the estimate that we came up to, like, if you wanted to make like the north to the standard of London, whatever that may be, it's more like in total the package would cost something like £2 trillion. So yeah, 650.
Yeah, because you've got
cut sounds about right.
Yeah, because you've got about 75 years. No matter how far you want to go back, you've got, let's say, even if we just go back to 1990, you've got, and I did this in railway terms, like everywhere outside of London, basically, you've got £5,000 per head that cities and towns and villages should have spent on them to get back up to London's level of just rail investment. So that's just rail investment, £5,000 per head. So pick a town that you live in. Multiply the population by 5,000, and that's how much money the town should have spent on it in order to get its public transport up to the level that London has. It's rail transport only up to the level that London has. That's kind of that's what we're talking about here.
Can I just take the cash?
Yeah, well, frankly, this is what I argue, is that that money should just immediately be made available to local and regional authorities. Just immediately make that money available.
Here's Starmer to make surprise pledge to commit entire GDP to building railways.
Yeah, well, the good thing is it wouldn't be earned. Of course, it would actually just add, our GDP would just get bigger by the amount that we'd spend.
We've accidentally committed ourselves to spending an infinite amount of money on railways.
No, I think Gareth, you'll find that if the government spends money, it's the same as like you taking it out of your bank account and burning it in the bin behind your house.
Yes.
There are no effects.
Yeah, that's right. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Alistair, stop doing that. This is why we have to charge money for Patreon, because you keep burning your money.
Whenever we end up talking about like anything even vaguely related to infrastructure, it's just so plainly obvious how much hatred everyone in government and Labour as well at this point have for anything that would be would allow them to make a return on an investment.
Yeah, and anything that would actually grow the economy is an anathema to everyone who has any chance of being in power. Yeah. So obviously there's been the kind of the general elites that are in charge of the country have decided that's not an anti-Semitic trope. I'm talking about like the general media level consensus going, oh yeah, the Tories have kind of burned out. It's time to give the other guys a go now. And so obviously the Labour Party has to shift itself into being the centre-right party of government, which they've done. They've successfully shifted themselves into that mould, ready to take up, so that they can continue having a go. And it's just like that. It really is just we change the colour of the tie. Yeah. And as a result, nothing changes. But what's funny is that even by neoliberal measures, you need this infrastructure investment to get. Part of the reason why capitalism is murdering itself at this point is because of that neoliberal consensus against investing has eaten the need for the neoliberal economy to actually have these structures to make its workers have a vaguely livable life to feed the neoliberal machine. Like, it's self-defeating.
Listen,
it's eaten itself.
I mean, they said things could only get better. They did. Stop asking for more.
I mean, that's the funny thing, right? If Corbyn had become Prime Minister in 2017 or 19, he would have been saving these cunts from themselves by investing in literally anything. Like,
literally one thing.
Even half a thing. Like, it would have alleviated or at least put a break to a degree on the insanity
that is now.
The complete bonkers state that we find ourselves in now, with a railway built to alleviate our existing groaning network
on the death spiral.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And it won't even do that, or it would barely do any of that now.
I'll leave you. Right. I'll leave you with one because we'll like. I want to stop talking about this Network North bullshit. But I wanted to read you one more bit because I just found it like delightfully bleak and like you
want to torture me further.
Correct.
Yeah. Quote, we will upgrade the energy coastline between Carlisle, Workington and Barrow. This will enable half-hourly service, blah, 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 and accommodate major new freight demands from the new coal mine. Hooray!
Hooray!
That's what we wanted
marvelous.
To see.
It is. Isn't Britain a great country?
The whole thing is.
It's the second greatest country, don't you know?
This whole Network North business is so full of, like, the whole report is full of could statements. Blah, blah, blah. This could support the creation of over 18,000 jobs. This could create a transformative network of up to 7 lines. HS2 money could pay for schemes such as extending the Manchester Metro link. It's like, yes, it could, but I doubt that it fucking, will. That's so it's
that's the key point. That's, as you say, that's the key point in all of this. There's no commitment because the whole point is that this is there's like none of these are guaranteed projects. What they've done is cancel a thing that was actually happening and replace it with nothing.
Yeah, it's a government report.
None of this exists.
All it is just a fucking bunch of pages that all say, "I have my fingers crossed." That's it.
Yeah.
There's no point to these. It's pure fucking.
Instead
scam.
of doing something, why don't we do nothing and just hope that the problem will go away?
Yeah, it could.
It could. Yeah.
What we need is for the Fat Controller to start lobbying the government, in order to turn Britain into the island of Sodor. So yeah. What could go wrong? All the trains have to have menacing faces on them now.
I, for one, welcome the overlords from the Sodor SSR.
Anyway, that's about all I wanted to talk about in terms of Network North, and now that we're sitting in the ruins of HS2, I don't know, Gareth, if there's anything you wanted to add to this, or any final thoughts on this delightful subject.
I think it's just getting angry at Labour as well, really, which is that Labour had a lot to say. Louise Haigh have provided various bits of information, supported Louise. I still think she could be a good Secretary of State for Transport. I think she's doing some good stuff on buses.
Yeah, but I also think she's going to get fucking sacked 2 months into if they get into.
It's just the shame about the fucking person in charge of the Treasury.
Yes, quite. But as soon as the Tories gave Labour the space, the political space to say, no, we're not going to do HS2, Reeves was all over it like a rash. She was like, and to be fair, I'm sure Starmer, the two of them together, both immediately, fuck that. Yeah, no, we can't commit to HS2. That's gone. Obviously, government's ruined that. They've sold off all the land, except they haven't sold any land off yet. So yeah, as soon as they were given the space to edge away from it, they did. And it just shows how distant they've got from the connection with the unions, because, as I say, unions are incredibly pro HS2 because of all the reasons. Lots of unionized jobs. That's they can be selfish because it's a good thing to have jobs. They're good jobs. These are good long term. It's not just the construction jobs, but also the fact that you're expanding a public transport system, which means more good jobs available for people to work in, of which we have a chronic shortage of, and a load of spreadsheet jobs are going to be doomed by AI over the next couple of years. So we need more good jobs out there. And Labour have just completely distanced themselves from that. And they've now there's a brief glimpse of, maybe they might do something good when they got Jürgen Meyer in to do potentially do a review of, and then unfortunately Jürgen immediately said, well, no, we can't HS2 can't be delivered as it was. To which he immediately got immensely ratioed to everyone going, why not? Nothing has changed. There is nothing. The need for HS2 has only got more acute. The plans can just be implemented as they were developed. Nothing has changed. None of the land has been sold. Just promise.
This is the thing. Surely this is like a slam fucking dunk. Even more ahead in the polls. All of the people who are
the ill will, the anger about HS2 getting cancelled.
Exactly.
You saw it from local radio hosts that were grilling various Tory grandees about it, and they like Sunak and Hunt were all squirming as they realised that this was actually not very popular at all. They were getting phone-ins of people going, how can I believe you on anything? You've just cancelled this, you cancelled that, you cancelled that. I don't believe a thing you've got to say. They were getting and Labour just absolutely could not do it. They could not commit. And the consequence of this is that now, once again, we're in a massive dip in manufacturing of rail vehicles, not just from HS2, but from other things as well, the lack of overall strategy. So we're now seeing the two major manufacturers of rail vehicles disappearing, Newton Aycliffe and Derby, potentially both completely disappearing off the face of the planet. It's just not to mention the fact that I know lots of people lots of apprentices have been sacked and had to leave HS2, the company itself, or contractors. Thousands, if not tens of thousands of jobs gone. That's a good thing for the economy, apparently.
And for what benefit? Who literally who benefits from this other than the most insane people you've ever?
The 4 Spectator columnists.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they actually, do they benefit? Well, actually, no, they don't benefit, but they get another 3 or 4 snarky columns out of it. Exactly, yeah.
They benefit in the same way that every single other dickhead in this country benefits from Labour's destruction over fucking 2017 and 2019. They got what they fucking wanted, and that's all that matters. Rest in piss, cunts.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, I think on that note...
That's a cheery way to end.
Yeah.
Hey!
We don't have
Keith Chegwin there.
Hey! Today, I think.
Sorry.
That'll do us for yet another episode of Podcasting as Praxis. Gareth, thank you so very much for making the time and coming back on.
I'm so depressed.
And of course, if there's I hear somebody's writing a book.
Yes, I look forward at some point to actually pitching the book properly, but I feel like it would be bad luck to do it until I got this second bloody draft out. But yeah, no, I will be. There'll be a book, and it will say what the world could look like if railways were good, because the book will be. In fact, this is the first podcast I'm actually giving the book name on. I'm going to do it. Fuck it. Announcing the book right now. The book will be called. It's on Amazon already because Amazon's weird. I don't know, but it's and other good bookshops will be available. How the Railways Will Fix the Future. Looking forward to it being on shelves in November.
Yeah,
this is it. Podcasting is Practice exclusive, literally. Yeah, it will be on shelves. I think publication dates. Don't check this, editor. I think publication date's the 12th of November. So get your pre-orders in.
Just inside my birthday.
That's fun. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, get it.
I guess I've announced the book publicly now. Then
get it for your birthday. Get it for your partner's birthday. Get it for people you don't know. Get it for their birthday. Just buy a lot of copies.
Use this loo roll. I don't care as long as you buy it. Buy as many as you can, because it's my first book and I'm shitting myself that 2 people are going to buy it, and then that'll be the end of that.
Buy a copy and throw it at a Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yes, do this.
Thanks very much for coming on, Gareth.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's always a delight to hang out with you and just generally be angry at things. It's good fun.
Yeah, I pray that we never ever get you on to talk about the Clyde Metro project, because I want that one to happen.
Yes, get me on, you cowards. Do it. Oh my god.
Because if we get you on, it means it's fucked. We only ever get you on when something's gone terribly wrong.
Already so much going wrong on that project, but I'm hopeful. But
yeah, here's hoping.
Scotland, for everyone south of the border, many people listen to this south of the Scottish border. As someone who lives south of the border but very much calls north of the border home, I'm talking about the real border here. None of the I don't know what other borders people are thinking of. It's really not as rosy north of the border as everyone in England thinks it is. Certainly for transport, and also for everything else as well. But certainly for rail transport, everyone thinks down here that it's all sunshine and roses for rail. But just going to remind everyone, they're spending billions of pounds on pointlessly duelling the A9 and spending absolutely nothing comparatively on rail. So it's not that different up there,
it's
folks.
Great, yeah. Ask anyone who's ever had to go north of Edinburgh what rail travel's like. They say it's fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, plugs for us, patreon.com/praxiscast. You will get bonus episodes, etc., etc. You know the drill. You can get on the Discord and you can shout at us. Twitch.tv.
Also, you can learn the mysteries of Wet Starmer, which is generally one of our best bits.
Forbidden content that only patrons can access. There you go.
Welcome. That was my drowning Keir Starmer there.
I like that. More of that, please. Twitch.tv/practicecast streams. We will be spreading managed democracy this week, so come join us for that.
Yeah, voters, join us.
Yeah.
We'll have Sinan on as well.
Yeah, we will, we'll have a good collab. And, also merch available, practicecast.tmail.com. That'll do the plugs. That'll do me. Goodbye.
That'll do us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right.
Beautiful. Pressing the big square stop button right.